Welcome back, everybody. So since this is the first demon video that I'm dropping, let's go over some of the basics of just being a demon first before I hop into talking about Eligos. So, in the beginning of a match as a demon, you're going to go around and look for the survivors while also trapping things. Trapping things is very important because it gives you a few points every trap to add into your threat level, which is going to be a major factor going into the beginning portions of a match. Now, in the beginning, you can go around and block the objectives, the dagger and the page, and I did that for many, many rounds at first, but I found that the survivors, they just eventually are finding these map pieces way too quickly, and that can be very detrimental to a match, especially if they do it so fast that they're then covering the dagger and the page within the first 3 to 4 minutes of a match. I really think that the devs need to make it a little bit more harder or difficult to find the map pieces. It's just some of these survivors are getting done with them just way too quickly. So what I started doing eventually is I just started floating all the way across the map. So when at the beginning of a match, take a look at your map and just float all the way to the other side while trapping in between. Don't forget to drop traps in between as you go, because you want to be earning those points for your threat level. So your threat level is basically, think of it like a JRPG, right? So your threat level is essentially you leveling up like in an RPG game and becoming stronger and stronger and stronger. You can level up various factors on your demon like possession, infernal energy, your basic minions, your elite minions, your traps, and that's going to be the underlying strategy for everything you do as a demon. So yeah, for me personally, flying across the map, looking for the survivors, sometimes coming across a map piece, which happens rarely, but it does happen, and then you can kind of defend the location with your traps and whatnot. But coming across a survivor is important while the map piece section is happening, because if you do, you can then start to hound them. Hounding them and engaging with them is important because now this is going to make your threat level go up even faster, which makes you a more stronger demon, so this is a good thing. And if you do come across a map piece or anything like that, start getting your minions ready. You want to lay down proximity traps to defend this, because this is where the survivors are getting ready to head to. There's only one map piece at a time on the entire map, so when you find one, that's where they're coming. That's where they're getting ready to head. So lay down your proximity traps on top of it, and then fuel up your infernal energy again. And then when they get there, just release your basic active minions, and then they're going to have a nice little fight on their hands. Now, think of infernal energy as your fuel. You want to have it filled up as much as possible before you engage or possess your minions or do anything like that, because you're going to need it to not only trap things and create traps, but when you possess a minion, you're going to need this filled up so you can be in the minion for as long as possible and then go chase after a survivor, engage with them, fight with them. If it's too low, like if you get just enough infernal energy to where you can possess somebody or possess a minion, or if you lay down a minion and then immediately possess them, you're not going to have enough fuel to do anything with that minion. You're just immediately going to be pushed out of it. So just make sure that your fuel is topped up before you do any possessing or anything like that. Now, at the beginning, when you get into encounters with the survivors, you don't want to think of it as, even when you're doing the pages and the dagger, you don't want to think of an encounter as, I need to kill them. I need to kill the survivors in this moment. Think of every encounter like you're feeding off their souls a bit, and you're using each encounter to fill the gas tank on your threat level. The more you possess, get hits, lure them into traps, all of that feeds into how strong you are as the match goes on. So every next encounter, you're going to be stronger and stronger and stronger. Also, when you do possess a unit, that unit becomes stronger and more susceptible to getting hit. So if you find someone alone, spawn in your basic units and go fight them. Spawn them in, make sure you have enough infernal energy, jump into one of your units and run after that survivor and go give them a fight. Learn dodging. Dodging is very important. So because you're engaging in a 1v1 here, so you're going to have to go learn how to dodge. Don't be afraid to spam your melee attacks to overwhelm them and stagger them. They will start to go down. Use those heavy attacks combined with your quick attacks just right, and you'll give them a fight. Now, depending on their survivor, the 1v1 encounters may not go so well. In that case, just keep luring them into traps as best you can. Possess them. And then have a good strat is to set up some traps nearby the survivor if you see that their fear is going up, and then jump into that survivor, run them over to the trap, let them go, and then boom, the trap activates. Now they have to fight a minion. Remember that you're still powering up at this point in the beginning parts of a match, so each thing you do is powering you up. Your goal is to not necessarily kill a survivor, but just to keep giving them engagements. Longer fights and longer engagements means more fuel for your threat level. So during the bigger fights, when you have a lot of infernal energy, specifically in the dagger and the page fights, don't feel the need to stay inside of one survivor or unit for too long. Pop out when necessary to jump to the next unit and then use their ability, pop out, go to the next unit, use their ability, or just even to save some of your energies for a better approach. If you're not in a dagger or page fight where your infernal energy keeps replenishing, then it's a good idea if the situation's not going good or if you've lost the moment, then jump out of it just to preserve some of your infernal energy so you have some left and you don't have to go wandering around just to fill half of the bar again. Sometimes if you get lucky, you'll get into situations where you can just snowball the survivors and really lay it into them with the possessions and the minion encounters, which really drives up your threat level. Now, when it comes down to actually protecting the dagger and the page, you want to give those encounters the best fight you can. Protect and defend the area before they get there with proximity minions and prepare for the big fight. The infernal energy fuels up constantly during this fight, so don't be afraid to possess when it's near to full and go after survivors with various fighting strats. Now at the end game, the finale fight, this is really what you've been working toward through the whole match if you haven't managed to kill the survivors yet. All of your hounding, all of your fighting, all the encounters, all the tormenting comes up to this point where your demon is the strongest that it can be. This is the point where you have to give it your all, fight smart, take them down. And just to add on to the end finale fight, I would never attack the book unless survivors are just splitting up far enough away from it for you to do so. But in the end, most of the time, survivors are smart. They're going to prevent you from destroying it. Now, time to get into Eligos, but before I do get into Eligos, I would like to mention there are problems I have noticed with the game balance-wise when playing the demon, and I think it is how fast some of the survivors are able to find map pieces, and there's a car issue. Some of you may have noticed while trying to play the demon. So with the map pieces, some games I've had where people find the maps, what they're doing is they're splitting up into groups of ones, and they know they can get away with it because in the very beginning, the demon is so weak that you can't really engage even in a 1v1 with some of these survivors, and they'll use the cars as safety blankets to get in them and drive around. If they know you're around and about to attack, they'll just get into a car and go drive off, or they'll use the car to drive over your minions, and it's a real hassle. And sometimes you're just not strong enough to fight them one-on-one. You have to watch them do what they're doing. And what they do is they split off into groups of ones in the surrounding areas around where the map appears, proximity-wise, because the maps usually appear around each other, right? You get the first map piece, the next one will appear close by. So if everybody splits up into a group of one all around the map, then the survivors can easily just grab all three pieces, lickety-splickety, and then go and cover. They split up into twos after that and go cover the page and the dagger. And you're so weak as a demon by this point because it happens so fast that you can't even handle two people at the points. So they just take both points and then head over to the dark ones, and then the round is over. So this is definitely a big problem. A big problem that the devs need to take care of, I think, very quickly, or this game is going to go into a bad direction, because people are finding exploits. They're finding little tiny exploits that they can get away with. There's already people speed hacking in some matches. It's crazy. So, and then the other thing is the cars. People bring cars into the dagger and page objectives, and they run over your minions, and like, it's hard to do anything about it. You'll get into the car and drive away, but then you got to leave them for a moment, and they're gaining, they're using your precious time as a demon to, they're taking the dagger and the page, and then you got to drive it away and get out and then come back. And if two people bring cars to the same area, forget about it. So, like, people using cars as safety blankets and being able to just do everything in the car is just, it's becoming a really big problem with the game. It's bad enough that there's resources all over the place for the survivors. They get healing shimp colas all over the place, and Cheryl's healing everybody, and it does feel like a mess at time. I'm not going to lie. You guys are going to go into the demon, and there's going to be frustrating games, let me tell you. But stick it out. Hopefully the devs fix it. There are still some matches that happen that feel legit. You just have to cherish those matches and keep moving on. So getting into Eligos, I had a lot of frustration with Eligos in the start until I finally figured him out. It took a couple of days. So I lost a majority of my matches with him until it clicked. It was my first time using the demon ever, so it took me a bit to figure it all out. So Eligos' strength is possession and his AoE attacks with his minions. You'll really want to upgrade his possession levels, as his possessed minions can really lay on a pounding to survivors with that upgraded. But the big hitter has to be his AoE lightning attacks from the elite minions. A big mistake I made early on was to waste the elite minions by dumping them into battle with the survivors. Don't do that. Instead, treat them like the flutist that the evil Ash lays down. You want to hide them somewhere nearby. Keep splitting them into two, and then your extra will run into the fight and help fight, and he'll also cast lightning. And then you want to lay down those AoE attacks from a hidden location. Now, this is only effective for a while until the survivors are done fighting all the other minions, or they just figure it out in the middle of battle. So once those minions are really exhausted, they're going to become very aware what you're doing, and they're just going to dodge the lightning attacks. Like, if you're a survivor and you haven't encountered this yet, watch the ground for lightning and dodge in those moments to get away. You'll see the ground start to sparkle before the lightning comes down. Don't let that hit you. That's a good tip for the survivors. Just dodge out of the way when you see the lightning, because that means that there's an Eligos minion close by, and he can be a nuisance, so go search him out, get rid of him. As an elite, mix up your AoE with melee attacks, going in for a hit on the survivors that are farthest away from the others. Remember that when you do get shot as an elite, it doesn't really affect him. He's still moving around. So people with guns, you can go through it and still continue to attack. Jump in there with some melee attacks. Another cool strat is luring them to you. Set up a trap. Make sure, this is a big one, set up traps around the area, especially if you're on an objective, and then when you get into the elite, let them see you, but let them see you just enough to where they're going to come after you, and then lead them into a trap. The trap will activate, and then you can go to town with AoE and melee and really beat the crap out of them. These methods will turn your game with Eligos toward the better, because all of this combined is going to make your threat level increase drastically. When you're playing Eligos himself, pick your attacks carefully and don't just spam attacks mindlessly. Position yourself to get hits on survivors while trying to keep yourself safe as possible. You don't want them all on you for a stun lock. Keep your distance, float around them, attack from the flank. If all goes well, and some of the RNG is on your side, you'll be so powerful by the end that you'll have a strong chance of taking them out. That's pretty much it with Eligos. I'm still learning as a demon. I'm into Henrietta right now. I don't know if I want to continue playing demon just because of all the little exploits that people are using with the cars and the maps. It's almost overwhelming to the point where it kind of feels broken because people have learned so many little tidbit things that they can get away with as a survivor, and it kind of sucks playing the demon. So I'm gonna probably wait until the devs patch these things up and clean it up, because the survivors feel great to play. The demons, a little bit frustrating. I think they still have a little bit of work to do before the demon side of the game becomes just as entertaining as the survivor side of the game. But that's about it. You guys have a good one. I'll see you in the next video. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Bye-bye.